What started as a routine late-night interview turned into television chaos when British actor Stephen Graham confronted Jimmy Fallon over his dismissive comments about working-class actors, leading to an explosive on-air meltdown that left audiences stunned. The Tonight Show studio buzzed with its usual pre-taping energy as Stephen Graham settled into the guest chair across from Jimmy Fallon. The British actor, known for his gritty performances in This Is England and The Irishman, had come to promote his latest project, but the atmosphere felt different from the moment cameras started rolling. Fallon opened with his trademark grin, flipping through his cue cards with rehearsed casualness. "So, Stephen, you've played some really intense characters, gang members, criminals, tough guys. Is it hard to shake off those roles when you go home to your normal life?" Graham's jaw tightened slightly at the phrasing, but he maintained his composure. "Well, Jimmy, these aren't just tough guy roles to me. They're real people with real stories. I grew up in similar circumstances to many of the characters I portray. It's not about shaking anything off. It's about bringing authenticity to experiences that are often overlooked." Fallon laughed, seemingly missing the weight of Graham's response. Right. But come on, you must have some fun with it. I mean, putting on the accent, the swagger. It's like playing dress-up, isn't it?" The comment hung in the air like a challenge. Graham's expression hardened, his Merseyside accent becoming more pronounced as his voice carried a warning edge. "Dress up? Jimmy, with respect, I think you're missing the point entirely. This isn't some costume party. These are stories about real communities, real struggles." Fallon, either oblivious to the tension or choosing to ignore it, pressed forward, with his scripted banter. "Oh, I get it. But you have to admit, there's something almost exotic about it for American audiences. The whole British working-class thing is really having a moment right now." The word exotic landed like a slap. Graham leaned forward, his hands gripping the armrests of his chair. "Exotic? Did you just call my background exotic?" His voice dropped to a dangerous whisper that somehow carried more menace than shouting. "My childhood wasn't a tourist attraction, Jimmy. Growing up poor in Liverpool wasn't some quaint experience designed for your entertainment." The studio audience shifted uncomfortably, sensing the change in atmosphere. Fallon's smile faltered for just a moment before snapping back into place, but there was uncertainty in his eyes now. "Hey, no offense meant. I just think American audiences love that authentic British vibe you bring." "Authentic British vibe?" Graham's laugh was bitter, devoid of humor. "You mean the vibe of having nothing? Of watching your parents struggle to put food on the table? Of seeing your mates end up in prison or worse because there were no other options?" He stood slightly in his chair, his intensity filling the space between them. "That's not a vibe, Jimmy. That's survival." Fallon's nervous laughter echoed through the studio as he shuffled his cards, clearly trying to steer the conversation back to safer ground. Okay, let's talk about your new project then. I heard there's some great action sequences, but..." Graham wasn't letting him off the hook. "No, Jimmy, you don't get to just move on. You've spent the last 5 minutes trivializing everything I stand for as an actor and as a person. You want to talk about authentic? Let's talk authentic." His voice rose, commanding the attention of everyone in the studio. "You sit here in your comfortable bubble, making jokes about experiences you'll never understand, treating working-class stories like they're some kind of novelty act." The color drained from Fallon's face as he realized his usual charm offensive wasn't working. "Stephen, I think you're taking this the wrong way." "The wrong way?" Graham's voice cracked like a whip. "Tell me, Jimmy, when did you last worry about paying rent? When did you last choose between heating your home or buying groceries? When did you last feel like society had written you off before you even had a chance?" The questions came rapid-fire, each one hitting its mark. "Because that's what you're calling exotic. That's what you think makes good entertainment." The studio fell silent except for the hum of cameras still rolling. Fallon's usual quick wit abandoned him as he sat frozen, cue cards forgotten in his trembling hands. The audience held its collective breath, sensing they were witnessing something unprecedented, a complete breakdown of the carefully orchestrated late-night talk show formula. Graham's eyes blazed with righteous anger as he continued, "You know what the real problem is, Jimmy? People like you treat actors like me as if we're performing our own lives for your amusement, like our backgrounds are just another part of the show. But we're not here to be your working-class mascots." The tension in the studio reached a breaking point as Graham rose from his chair, towering over the suddenly small-looking host. "You want to know what's really authentic, Jimmy?" Graham's voice cut through the silence like broken glass. "This moment right here. This is what happens when someone finally calls you out on your privileged nonsense." He gestured around the opulent studio set. "Look at all this. Look at your golden throne here. Your audience of sycophants nodding along to every word you say. You've never had to fight for anything real in your entire life." Fallon's hands shook as he attempted to regain control, his voice cracking with false authority. "Stephen, I think we need to calm down here. This is supposed to be fun, light entertainment." "Fun?" Graham's laugh was harsh and bitter. "There's nothing fun about watching you mock entire communities for cheap laughs. Nothing entertaining about your casual dismissal of people's pain." He leaned closer to Fallon's desk, his presence imposing and intimidating. "You know what your problem is? You think everything's a joke. Everything's material for your little comedy bits." The studio audience sat in stunned silence, some filming with their phones despite security protocols. This wasn't the sanitized, scripted drama they expected from late-night television. This was raw, unfiltered confrontation playing out in real time. Fallon attempted another nervous giggle, his signature move failing spectacularly. "Look, if I offended you, that wasn't my intention. Maybe we got off on the wrong foot here." "Wrong foot?" Graham's voice rose to a roar that echoed through the studio. "You didn't get off on the wrong foot, Jimmy. You revealed exactly who you are. A privileged, out-of-touch celebrity who thinks working-class struggle is some kind of performance art." His finger pointed directly at Fallon's chest. "You sit there in your expensive suit, making millions to tell jokes, and you have the audacity to call my life experiences exotic entertainment." Behind the cameras, producers frantically gestured to security, unsure whether to intervene or let the television gold continue. This was unprecedented territory for The Tonight Show, and everyone knew they were witnessing something that would be dissected for years to come. Fallon's composure crumbled completely as sweat beaded on his forehead. "Stephen, please, can we just take a breath here? I never meant to imply—" "You never meant to imply?" Graham cut him off viciously. "That's the problem with people like you. You never mean anything. You just say words, throw around phrases, treat real people's lives like punchlines, and then act surprised when someone takes offense." His voice dropped to a menacing whisper. "Well, I'm taking offense, Jimmy. I'm taking serious offense to every patronizing word that's come out of your mouth tonight." The confrontation had moved beyond professional disagreement into something far more personal and dangerous. Graham's years of portraying intense characters seemed to merge with his genuine anger, creating a presence that dominated the entire studio. "You want authentic British working class?" Graham's accent thickened with emotion. "Here it is. We don't back down from bullies, Jimmy. We don't smile and nod when privileged toffs mock our backgrounds. We stand up and fight back." His eyes blazed with fury. "And that's exactly what I'm doing right now." Fallon made one last desperate attempt to salvage the situation, his voice barely above a whisper. "Stephen, I respect your background, I really do. I was just trying to connect with the audience." "Connect with the audience?" Graham exploded. "By turning my childhood trauma into your comedy material? By treating poverty like it's some charming character quirk?" He slammed his hand on Fallon's desk, causing the host to jump back in his chair. You don't connect by mocking, Jimmy. You connect by listening, by showing respect, by treating people's stories with the dignity they deserve. The studio lights seemed to intensify the heat of the moment as Graham continued his verbal assault. But you can't do that, can you? Because that would require actually caring about something beyond your ratings and your paycheck. That would require seeing people like me as human beings instead of entertainment commodities. Security personnel hovered at the edges of the set, waiting for signals from increasingly panicked producers. The situation had spiraled completely beyond anyone's control, and the cameras kept rolling, capturing every explosive second for posterity. Graham took a step back from the desk, his chest heaving with righteous indignation. You know what the saddest part is, Jimmy? You had a chance tonight to actually learn something, to understand something real about the world beyond your bubble. Instead, you chose to be exactly what everyone already knows you are, a shallow, privileged puppet, who mistakes cruelty for comedy. The accusation hung in the air like a death sentence, as Fallon sat frozen in his chair, completely unable to respond. Graham surveyed the pathetic figure before him with undisguised contempt. "Look at you," he said quietly, his voice carrying more venom than any shout. The great Jimmy Fallon, rendered speechless by a simple dose of truth. This is what happens when someone finally refuses to play your game. The studio audience shifted uncomfortably, many now openly filming despite security's attempts to stop them. Social media was already exploding with clips and commentary, the hashtag Graham vs. Fallon trending worldwide within minutes. Fallon finally found his voice, though it came out as a pathetic croak. "Stephen, I'm sorry if you feel I disrespected." "If I feel?" Graham's interruption was swift and merciless. "There's no if about it, Jimmy. You did disrespect me, my background, and everyone who comes from where I come from. And your non-apology just proves you still don't get it." He shook his head in disgust. "You're not sorry for what you said. You're sorry you got called out on it." Behind the cameras, the show's executive producer made frantic cutting motions across his throat, but the camera operators, sensing television history in the making, kept rolling. This was no longer just a talk show interview. It was a cultural moment, a reckoning years in the making. Graham turned to address the audience directly, his voice carrying the weight of righteous fury. "This is your host, everyone. This is the man you invite into your homes every night. A person so disconnected from reality that he thinks poverty is exotic, that struggle is entertainment, that working-class lives are just material for his comedy. Sketches." Several audience members began applauding, slowly at first, then building to a thunderous crescendo that echoed through the studio. The sound seemed to physically wound Fallon, who sank deeper into his chair with each clap. "You know what the real tragedy is," Graham continued, his voice now carrying across the entire studio without amplification. "There are brilliant actors, writers, and creators from working-class backgrounds who will never get the opportunities they deserve because people like him control the narrative. They decide whose stories get told and how they get told." Fallon made one final desperate attempt to salvage his dignity. "Stephen, I've always supported diversity in entertainment. I've had guests from all backgrounds." "Having guests and respecting guests are two very different things," Graham shot back instantly. "You parade us around like exotic animals in a zoo, Jimmy. You bring us on to perform our backgrounds for your amusement, then act shocked when we refuse to dance to your tune." The confrontation had reached its natural conclusion, but Graham wasn't finished. He walked around the desk, forcing Fallon to swivel in his chair to face him. The power dynamic completely reversed from the show's opening. "I want you to remember this moment, Jimmy," Graham said, his voice now deadly calm. "Remember the night you showed your true colors on national television. Remember the night your casual cruelty finally caught up with you." He leaned down until he was at eye level with the trembling host, And I want you to think about all the people you've dismissed, all the communities you've mocked, all the stories you've trivialized for cheap laughs. Fallon's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air, but no words came. The fight had been completely knocked out of him, leaving only a hollow shell of the confident entertainer who had started the show. Graham straightened up, his point made definitively. I came here tonight to promote my work, to talk about stories that matter. Instead, I got a masterclass in everything that's wrong with this industry. He looked directly into the main camera. To everyone watching at home, you deserve better than this. You deserve entertainment that respects your intelligence and your experiences. Without another word, Graham unclipped his microphone and let it drop to the floor with a sharp crack that echoed through the stunned studio. He walked past the frozen production crew, past the security guards who made no move to stop him, and straight toward the exit. The studio doors slammed shut behind him with a finality that seemed to wake everyone from their trance. Fallon remained, in his chair, staring at the empty guest seat, while the audience slowly began to murmur among themselves. Camera operators continued filming, capturing every second of the host's humiliation. Within hours, the confrontation had become the most watched late-night television clip in history. Respect Stephen Graham dominated social media as viewers praised the actor's courage in standing up to Fallon's privileged dismissiveness. The incident sparked widespread discussions about class, authenticity, and respect in entertainment. By morning, The Tonight Show's ratings had plummeted to historic lows, and Jimmy Fallon's reputation lay in ruins. Stephen Graham, meanwhile, saw his profile soar as audiences finally understood what authentic storytelling looked like when it refused to be sanitized for mass consumption. The confrontation had ended, but its impact would resonate throughout the entertainment industry for years to come, serving as a powerful reminder that respect and professionalism must always come before ratings and cheap laughs.